Ian's deck list in front of you. See any spice over there?
Yeah, straight 3-color decks all around. Ian is Jeskai, based in blue-white, just like Harry Corvasi. I think his deck did not get there as much. He's got a way more defensive take on it with cards like Dazzling Ramparts, Sage Eye Harrier, and War Behemoth.
It's an embodiment of spring to lead things off here on our quarterfinals of GPOrlando for DeTora. Farnung is just going to play a Plains before passing the turn back to DeTora with a Mountain. That's not a forest for the embodiment. That's a touch awkward.
Yeah, what you should know about Ian's deck is that it is largely based around defenders. There's a lot of things you see here. Dragon's Eye Savants, that's your 0-6. Monastery Flock, that's your 0-5. Question is, how is he going to plan to win the game? Well, the answer would be he picked up that Pearl Lake Ancient that Harry passed on.
Aha!
And so he's got a big finisher waiting at the end.
You see a Teamer banner here from DeTora. That'll provide the green mana, not only for her deck, but for the embodiment as well. Here's 5 mana. That is a Bear's Companion. Trigger, of course, will net her a 4/4 bear here.
Yeah, I mean, DC, Melissa did end up playing both of the Teamer banners. Not only does she have a lot of good cards to ramp into, but as you see with her mana, she just needed a couple extra sources of each color really could help tie things together.
As far as mana is concerned for Melissa, you do mention the 2 banners. She's got 7 islands, 6 forests, only 2 mountains, along with the rugged highlands. That is the green-red duel, and then wooded foothills. Well, I think we all know what that one does. Arrowstorm was a card I was wondering if she was going to play that since it is double red, and she is not.
Yeah, it was very light on the red. In fact, she has no mono-colored red cards. It's only these Teamer Trio colored cards that she's running in red.
See, Farnung is just going to pass the turn back with 4 mana available. You know, there are plenty of good cards available with that mana cost. A card like Smite the Monsters can take care of the bear token. Looks like he does have a Crippling Chill in his hand. Of course, there's a card like Kill Shot as well. Makes you want to leave your mana available. So we'll see if Melissa wants to try to play around this turn, if Ian has any of those cards.
Yeah, Ian's deck is really heavy on morphs, so it's hard for Melissa to play around them. If you don't know what they are, what you can assume is that it's probably got 5 or more toughness in his deck. He has, like I said, War Behemoth, Sage Eye Harrier, Dragon's Eye Savants, Monastery Flock, a lot of good defenders here.
There is Crippling Chill before the attack. So it's time to shut that down. And Ian will draw a card. Now Bear's Companion says, I'm feeling frisky. Do you want to trade with the morph?
Yeah, the only morph that could flip up here would be Monastery Flock if Ian doesn't want the trade. Looks like he'll just take the damage, which does suggest that it's not the 0-5.
We can't forget about those free morphs. Reveal a blue card or reveal a white card, Rupture the Roost or Dragon Eye Savant.
Right, he actually does have the blue on. You're absolutely right.
There's another banner. See, there's a Savage Punch right now in Melissa's hand here. She will just pass the turn back over to Farnung, who will draw a card here. Looks like he picked up a copy of a Mountain. Did not have that before, so now all 3 colors are online for his more defensive take on Jeskai.
Yeah, what you should know, the ways he actually goes aggressive in his deck, he has 2 Ifrit Weapon Masters. So once again, on the morphs. And then he has some big game enders. So like I said before, the Pearl Lake Ancient is in his deck. On top of that, he picked up that copy of a River Wheel Aerialists, which is a great way to win the game through the air.
It's a Mountain. To me, he just wants to make it to the later turns of the game. He can gum up the ground and then win in the air, something we've seen quite a bit in this format.
Yeah, he really does not have many finishers outside of those 2 cards, though. Really, he has a couple Alabaster Kirans that maybe can make an appearance, but it's cards like that Bloodfire Mentor that you see here that are really tying his deck together. A lot of big defenders and some card advantage.
He followed that up with a Wetland Sandbar too, so not the most exciting turn as far as power level on cards is concerned. Though, if this game does go late, you did mention Bloodfire Mentor can take over.
Yeah, a lot of these cards are just committed to Ian surviving the early game. Wetland Sandbar, not a great card in his deck, but he hopes that it can trade with something, maybe in the early game before he gets enough walls up.
DeTora gonna draw a card here.
Tons of mana for her, and this is where I like the banners in the deck. If she can't press through Ian's attack, she will be able to start cracking these banners for additional cards. Embodiment of Spring was able to help her find that 3rd color on her own.
Bunch of mana here. Oh yes, the tusked, the tusked Colossadon.
Yeah, Colossadon's her play. She actually is able to leave up a Disdainful Strike too, with those remaining 2 mana. Which could be pretty relevant. Remember, Ian only has a couple of finishers. If she can snag one of those with a counterspell, it's going to be really relevant.
Big 6/5 in the house.
Yeah, that'll crash through most of Ian's walls.
Chances are, Ian gonna take a look at his morph briefly here. Probably as we get ready for battle here in a moment. We can't forget that Melissa does have a copy of Savage Punch in the grip too. Ian gonna reorganize the mana, see how he wants to go about tapping it, what he wants to leave open. Looks like we got a white and a red mana being tapped here. We'll see what for. Looks like an Anak Bondkin. Melissa gonna consult the grip. That's gonna resolve.
Yep, she's got that one covered in the Savage Punch with the Savage Punch in her hand as well. But I'm not sure she even needs to remove that guy. He will take a lot of turns to ever become relevant in this matchup. And on top of that, Ian doesn't have land 6. It's unlikely he can even afford the mana to level up the Anak Bondkin. And that's even if he has the time, which I'm not sure he does.
I'm not convinced he has the time to outlast that card either at this point. So see what DeTora wants to do on this turn. Again, we know about the Savage Punch. Just the big question is how does she want to go about using it, if she wants to even use it at all this turn. Looks like she's going to start maybe by attacking with the Colossadon, considering the bear token as well. And she says attack step. Okay, good to go. No crippling chill here. And everybody's going to come into the red zone.
Yeah, all the creatures are just 2/2s and 0 powers, so everything's safe to attack here. See what tricks Ian has, and not much.
Yeah. Bear's Companion going to trade there with the Wetland Sandbar. The bear token's going to run into the Bloodfire Mentor. Nothing's going to happen there. And of course, 6 damage will come across from the Colossadon. So Farnung is down to 12. DeTora will tap some mana here. Going to cash in the banner. So new card coming here for Melissa. Looks like it may have been a forest that she did pick up. She will deploy that and just pass the turn back. Farnung's going to very quickly activate that Bloodfire Mentor for its looting ability.
Melissa's flooding out a bit here. Fortunately, the banners do turn into cards, so she should be able to get out of the land flood relatively quickly. The only pressure she's under right now from Ian is kind of that he has a good defense, a fair amount of chump blockers, and this Bloodfire Mentor. All it will take is Ian finding something like a Crippling Chill to really take the wind out of her sails here.
Well, Ian's drawn one. Now he's got to discard one, of course. Or I think people will take Bloodfire Mentor maybe a little bit higher as he's going to discard an Arc of Lightning.
Interestingly about Ian's deck, and this is something I do want to point out, he picked an early Narset Enlightened Master and opted to leave it in the sideboard despite being a Jeskai deck.
Okay. It's a little bit surprising, I think.
Was surprised. Yeah, there aren't actually that many non-creature spells that he can just cast for free off it. But nonetheless, I would have thought, you know, I haven't actually gotten to play with that card yet. And I would assume that if Ian's leaving that card on the board, my guess is that he has both played with it and decided it's not that high of a pick.
You're certainly seeing its power in Constructed. Its power in Limited is still debatable at this point. This looks like Farnung is just going to pass the turn back. Doesn't play a land, doesn't do much of anything. So threatening to cast a lot of instants here. Again, maybe a card like Kill Shot that DeTora has to have on her radar.
Yeah, Ian's deck has a really no sense of tempo. It is a bunch of walls and looting and some card draw. You actually saw on Ian's turn, he discarded Arc Lightning to the Bloodfire Mentor.
Well, it's not great on this board state.
No, it's not good here. It's funny because that's a really high pick of a card.
DeTora just going to attack with one creature. You see Farnung's going to take a look at his morph. Again, 5 mana, the sweet spot for morphs in this format. And it looks like it will be a block with the morph. DeTora shrugging his shoulders, see what this is going to be. This will be a feat of resistance. Again, shrugging the shoulders, protection from green for the morph. It'll get a counter as well.
Now, if this card is the Dragon Eye Savants, it can flip up and become big enough to sit in front of Tusked Colossadon. But outside of the 0/6s, he's going to need to do more work if he wants to hold off that guy.
DeTora going to sacrifice the second banner here. So use those for mana fixing, now cashing him in. Wooded Foothill is going to come into play and just pass the turn back. Before Farnung moves to his turn, he will activate the Bloodfire Mentor again to draw and then discard a card.
Yeah, Melissa cracking banners to draw lands. Her draws have been pretty substandard right now. She is still sitting on the Disdainful Stroke, though, and that'll figure to be pretty good. Ian has both the Riverwheel Aerialists and the Pearl Lake Ancient in his hand, so she'll snag one, if not both, of his finishers.
Are told right now, Saul Malka, our #1 overall seed, does win game #1 over Pierre Mondin.
And with him winning that game so quickly, you have to wonder whether Saul, for the third time, has turned into aggressive 2 or 1 color decks.
It's a good question. He's been aggressive 2-color decks so far this weekend.
And Ian right now, interestingly, he has lands. When he's looting, he's not discarding them. He has discarded a cancel off that last Bloodfire Mentor.
It's pretty telling. Happy to discard a counterspell at this point.
Yeah, I would have thought this late in the game that cancel is a pretty sweet card. But if Ian's planning to tap out for Aerialists and Pearl Lake Ancient, then he doesn't really have time to hold up cancel. Waiting until 10, 9 or 10 mana doesn't seem really reasonable.
DeTora's going to sacrifice the Wooded Foothills, go down to 19 in the process to get a land out of her deck. Looks like it's going to be a mountain, so she will shuffle up and deal here in just a moment. Colossadon is really all she's got at this point. Again, has been holding on to Savage Punch for some time, just nothing really great to target. Does make you wonder how much she cares about this Bloodfire Mentor. It's starting to generate a bit of an advantage here.
Yeah, it's doing a lot of work. Ian isn't presenting much threat right now, but that's really just how his deck is. The one difficulty is he doesn't have a good answer to a card like Tusked Colossadon. His main way of dealing with creatures has been walls, and this guy's actually just big enough to not care about walls.
I think for Melissa, you do have to tread pretty carefully this turn. This was a turn where Ian discarded Cancel to Bloodfire Mentor, passed with 6 mana up, and didn't even outlast the Anok Bondkin. So you have to be thinking, okay, that morph has to be something good. Think about all the morphs that are out there, or what the heck is in your hand?
Right, it's pretty suspicious here. There's a lot of things that Ian could have done. Maybe he has a second cancel, but you really don't know. The good news is that Melissa does have her own Disdainful Strike and will never really take down the mana for it. So she has some defense, but it certainly isn't the kind of board that you want to Savage Punch onto or anything.
And Savage Punch is just a bit too risky, I feel like, on this board, even though she is reaching for 2 mana at this point. So maybe she's got a read and she's feeling confident that she can actually make this work as she does bring Savage Punch forward.
All right, well, this will put Ian to the test if she makes the play.
Oh, there is a Savage Punch, so it'll be Bear Token on the morph. Because Ferocious is live, +2/+2 will take effect here. This is a bit of a morph. What do we have here? The Mighty War Behemoth.
And they'll fight, but the War Behemoth will, with 1 damage, live to tell about it.
So again, that Bear Token becomes a 6/6. War Behemoth is a 3/6, but because of the Feat of Resistance token, it is now a 4/7, but it does have 6 damage on it.
Right, so that means it can't block either the 6/6 or the 6/5 in combat here. Ian's at 12, so he's going to have to jump at least one of them.
I suppose it can block in theory. Nothing that says it can't block. Oh boy.
Yeah, but now her first pick's going to come to the table. That was the bait spell. And I think if you want to say why she plays Savage Punch onto empty mana, is I actually think she wanted to get Ian tapped out so she could make Savage Knuckleblade.
That's exactly what she's going to do, and now she's got the mana to give it haste and the mana to pump it. Now attacking with the Bear Token, it does have 4 damage on it, so she doesn't look like she has any interest in maybe trading this in combat with anything.
Yeah, I would trade with the Einok Bondkin. She's not really interested in that trade.
First time I've seen Savage Knuckleblade in action. Unsurprisingly, this is quite powerful.
I played against him at the pre-release. Short version, he's good. Especially when you have 9 mana up, this guy is real good.
Doesn't seem like a lot of fun to play against.
Well, he's a 6/6 who has haste, and you can't kill him. So your best way to answer him is to just get something bigger than him. He can't get through that kind of board. But outside of that, he'll play around with enough mana, he'll play around all the combat tricks, win all the combats. He's a jerk.
Well, it's War Behemoth's job. A big tough guy.
Yeah,
since it's a 4/7.
War Behemoth, though, he's just a lowly chump blocker on this board.
Yeah, 6 damage on that thing, again, from the Savage Punch that took place a little bit earlier in the turn. You see the Anok Bondkin considering blocking at this point. I imagine Ian doesn't want to block with the War Behemoth because it's not really going to get anything done besides save a little bit of damage. So Tusk Colossadon will be blocked here by the Bondkin. No pump there from the Savage Knuckleblade. Want to leave up the ability to actually return it so a removal spell can't kill it.
Exactly here. If Ian had a kill spell, he actually could have put the Mentor in front of the Knuckleblades to try to induce Melissa into tapping out. There's a chance Ian would have just let the Knuckleblade bounce off the 0/5.
That's true, actually. That would have been an interesting situation, I think, there for Melissa. If you put the 05 in front of the Savage Knuckleblade, will she pump?
I don't think so. When you have 9 mana, I just think you don't want to ever let this guy die. Because when you untap with 9 mana and Savage Knuckleblade, he's just not leaving anymore.
Losing seems very tough from that point, or at least losing that card.
Yeah. And here's some dire straits from Ian.
Ugh, it's a weave away.
Yeah. Weave Fate. That's your inspiration from the set. It's going to draw 2. But this is not a board which you'd want to be weaving Fate onto.
I wouldn't be thrilled about that if that were my turn.
No.
Here's a morph, outclassed by these bigger Teamer creatures. That's what makes Teamer such an attractive deck, right? These creatures are so big.
I mean, you have blue and green, the 2 colors of large creatures. And Teamer is great at crashing in.
DeTora draws a card, has had Disdainful Stroke for some time now. Also doesn't land in the hand, but what we care about is actually on the board. Some very, very large creatures out there in Savage Knuckleblade and Tusk Colossadon. Here comes Nux.
And just him. And interesting attack. Ian can just block it with the War Behemoth. Does Melissa have a trick?
Kind of interesting here, right? Putting Ian to the test while his shields are down. Is he willing to block with the War Behemoth in this situation? Maybe he wants a chump block here with the Bloodfire Mentor because he values the War Behemoth very highly. Is taking a look at the Knuckleblades. You can only pump it once a turn, right? Yes.
She didn't want to swing the Colossadon because then it would end up trading with the Morph. War Behemoth and the Morph could double block it. Knuckleblade is a safe attack, but she may just end up bouncing her own creature unless she has a trick.
See the double block here. War Behemoth in front of the Savage Knuckleblade along with the Morph.
All right, well, we have our first result here. Artur Viela, he wins 2-0 over Frank Lepore. So
the dream is
the
dead.
dream of the finals meeting dream is over here. But a top 8 performance on Frank's side means he will be qualified for Pro Tour Washington, D.C. Congratulations to him, especially on his first Grand Prix top 8.
Congratulations to Artur as well. Moving on to the semifinals, going to play the winner of Harry Corvasi and Eugene Huang. We'll find out how that match is going when we do know. Bunch of mana being tapped here. What is this going to be?
Well, you can only pump Savage Knuckleblade once, and I think Melissa missed this on the
Yeah.
card. It's a Root Wall effect. So, and it'll be interesting whether or not the judge lets her take back all of the pumps. She may be forced into doing the first pump, saying, okay, your first pump was legal, but your second one was not. It looks like they moved it all the way back, so it's still a 4-4.
Yeah, Savage Knuckleblade's already quite good. If you get to do that as many times as you want to, that might be way too good.
I mean, in Constructed, it probably wouldn't change the card too much.
In Constructed, no. In Limited, I don't think it would be passable then.
Yeah, it's probably not even passable already, but yeah, it would win in this situation too.
No.
So a misstep on Melissa's side. She can bounce the Knuckleblade and recast it here into Ian's tapped out mana. So while she will lose her turn, she won't really lose any material from the board.
You see, yeah, there's some conversation here on what exactly is going to take place, as she thought she could pump it 3 times. So maybe she'll be held to one of these, as you did mention. You kind of see the hands waving in the air. Oftentimes when that happens, they're explaining things to the judge and to the other player about what their thinking was and why the game needs to be unwound at this point. But what was done is illegal.
Right,
as far as activating it multiple times.
And that's why, if you're wondering why she had to tap 3 mana there, it's the first activation was not illegal. That's a fine thing to do. You only back up to the first illegal action that was made, and the only illegal action that was made was when Melissa said pump it a second time.
Yeah. The long shot squad will be how she spends the rest of her mana for the turn. So the 3/3 that has the ability to outlast and grant everything with a +1/+1 counter reach has joined the party. But it looks like we're settling in for a pretty long game here.
Yeah, long games could favor Farnung here. He got his 7th land, and this is his opportunity to resolve Pearl Lake Ancient if he wants to do that.
That's a card that can take over the game, or at least get him back into it in a different way.
Yeah, and it looks like he's planning to end step the Pearl Lake Ancient. Remember that guy has Flash. However, there's a Disdainful Stroke in Melissa's hand, so that may not work out exactly how Farnung was hoping it.
Fortunately for Ian, Pearl Lake Ancient can't be countered. So it's actually pretty fortunate there.
The things that Mythic Rares do. All right, well, that guy's going to be... So Melissa will just have to try to trade with it, with larger creatures, which Teamer's up to that challenge.
Yeah, I mean, this is true. you know, Pearl Ancient, it's just kind of a crazy card. It's got this flash on it, so it can kind of snipe in combat. You know, can't be countered. Prowess as well, and then you return 3 lands to your hand to return that thing back to your hand. It's a nice game-winning threat. You know, the really thing that it doesn't have is kind of unblockable or trample or something like that, so it can be chump blocked quite a bit. And it will show up to the party now. You see Melissa's going to take a look at this bad boy.
Yep, can't be countered. It's big. It can be chump blocked, it can be beaten up, but that's about it.
Pretty sweet card. I like this card from a design standpoint.
You see 2 counter spells in Melissa's hand. She has both Teamer Charm and Disdainful Stroke. And it's possible.
Oh, no.
Well, Melissa actually can pump Savage Knuckleblade and then Teamer Charm the Knuckleblade onto the Pearl Lake Ancient and just kill it. She can fight it with the Knuckleblade.
Does that win the fight? Because Pearl Lake Ancient's a 6/7. Knuckleblade would become a 6/6.
Teamer Charm gives +1/+1 when things fight.
Oh, okay, okay.
So it could win. She opts to just let it hang out there, and that may be just as well. It's not exactly threatening to her board. As odd as that sounds, you know, this 6/7 Mythic with Prowess is just kind of a guy.
A big guy.
He's big, but you know, Teamer is all about that anyway.
Let's see what this is. Ooh, Dazzling Ramparts is going to show up now. Okay. There's the Disdainful Stroke. Finally, that thing's been burning a hole in her hand for some time now, waiting to cast that.
Yeah, the Ramparts need to be countered. That'll be that card very good against the Teamer strategy. Against any large creature, even a high-priced tapper would be strong against her. And we've gotten to this situation before, like when we saw Tom Ross in the Swiss drafting teamer. These decks are just full of powerful cards, but sometimes they have some trouble closing out the game. Their opponents, you just get this big board state, and while your creatures are big, you don't have a way to make them even bigger or to give them evasion. We'll see how Melissa can do that.
This has a lot of land in play to work with for Savage Knuckleblade. She's got that Teamer Charm in hand, Tuscalocedon out there, the ability to outlast that long shot, and then of course that bear token. Seems like forever ago that she cast that from the Bear's Companion.
Yeah, incremental growth among the cards in her hand.
Ooh.
So give everything reach and make all the huge things even huger.
That will change some things. The big question here is, how do you put those counters? Where do you put them? Are you sure it's going to work the way that you want it to?
Well, you'd like to have a creature that can kill War Behemoth and a creature that can kill Pearl Lake Ancient when all is said and done.
So it looks like everything but the Savage Knuckleblade is being targeted, which does make sense. If this does resolve, we'll see where the +3/+3 versus the +2/+2 and the +1/+1 is going to go.
Yeah, Knuckleblade is probably the last guy you want to put counters on because he can bounce himself, and you'd really hate to bounce a guy that you invested some resources into.
So Colosson's going to get a little bigger, and there is the split.
Everybody gets big. So now she has a 7/6, a 6/6, a 6/6, and a 4/4 who turns into a 6/6. Seems to be a pattern going on.
I'd attack. I like attacking. That's what I would do. She's going to figure out the best way to make this work.
Remember that Pearl Lake Ancient, despite being a 6/7, Teamer Charm gives 1/1 and causes creatures to fight. And Ian could get blown out. Okay, so when Ian goes to block, whoever he puts Pearl Lake Ancient in front of, if Melissa Teamer Charms to have that guy fight War Behemoth, it will kill War Behemoth and then be a 7/7 and then kill Pearl Lake Ancient. Granted, there's some risk here. If Ian has a non-creature spell, Pearl Lake Ancient does have prowess and would screw up that combat math.
Yeah, there's a scary card to play around here too. There are commons that are pretty scary. Force Away, Feat of Resistance. There are cards that are a little bit scary. Does Melissa believe that Ian has one? Well, we'll find out.
Ian is at 8. He's going to have to do some pretty heavy blocking right now.
Harry Corvasi and Eugene Huang are headed to game number 3, for those of you guys wondering at home. So again, the winner of that match will play against Artur Viela. Looks like we've got some blocks here. See, the long shot squad is going to be double blocked here by the War Behemoth and the Mystery Morph. Bloodfire Mentor is weighing its options as Pearl Lake Ancient has already got in front of the bear token.
Yeah, there has to be some amount of chump blocking here, and this Teamer Charm is really going to mess things up. This is in a great spot at the moment. though this is among some of her best weapons that she's already deployed. And update, we saw Harry Corvesi asked, how good is that Jeskai tempo deck? Well, it was strong, but not good enough to take down the round, as Eugene Huang 2-1 defeated Harry Corvesi's deck and moves on to the semifinals, where he'll face Artur Viela.
Congratulations to Eugene. For Harry, a fantastic tournament, but he will not win this Grand Prix here in Orlando. So now Melissa's going to tap 3 mana after the blocks have been declared, and now it's time to figure out, okay, how's the best way to use this charm? And there are a lot of great ways to do it.
Well, if you say, all right, we'll go through this. If Temur Charm pumps the bear and has the bear fight the behemoth, and she'll have the bear fight the mentor,
Okay.
that's also a great play
Pretty
here.
safe.
I was gonna say if I fought the behemoth, she'd get to kill the morph, the behemoth, and the Pearl-like Ancient, and it would cost her the bear and the Temur Charm. This is pretty good as well. Getting rid of the mentor may take away Ian's ability to find outs, and if she feels far enough ahead, that's actually the play she wants to do. There's a danger to leaving War Behemoth alive, as it is a 4/7. It can block everything that's going to be left on the board, with the exception of Tusked Colossadon.
And the fact that the bear gets bigger is such a big deal, right? And there's no damage on it too now.
Yeah.
Because now this is a 7/7 bear. And now Ian has to pick up his 3 lands and return Pearl Lake to his hand.
Right. If he had a non-creature spell, he could have had the blowout right there.
For sure.
He would have prowess Pearl-like Ancient.
Longshot Squad's going to take down the morph. The morph wasn't a free weapon master, excuse me. So that's going to bite the dust. Ian's down to 1. Melissa's at 19, and she's got the better board right now.
Going to be hard pressed for Ian to get this game. He needs 2 blockers just to stay alive. Not to mention, they're almost certain to be chump blockers based on the amount of lands he has.
And she's going to pick it up. Ian's going to pack it in. Melissa DeTora is going to win game number 1 here with her Temur deck over Ian Farnung and his Jeskai deck. Melissa's deck, again, very impressive from a power level standpoint. Ian's deck just looks okay at this point from the cards that we saw. Nothing all that impressive. Again, he's very, very defensive, and Melissa can kind of, overpower that because her creatures are so big.
Ian's deck really has problems closing out games. You saw almost all of his deck's late game there, and I think that's where the weakness of the deck is. Pearl-like Ancient has to do a ton of work for him to win, and it doesn't even really win against Melissa's deck, because while Pearl-like Ancient was a good wall there, it was never close to being able to, say, attack in that situation. And he doesn't have much counterplay to something like Savage Knuckleblade, so when it comes down to it, cards like Riverwheel Aerialists may be what he has to bank on in order to get through this match.
Saul Malka, he is going to be hard to beat. He has won again. Our number 1 overall seed defeats Pierre Mondin 2-0, and he is moving on. I can't wait to take a look at his deck when we get the opportunity to, just to see what he's up to. Is it another aggressive 2-color deck? That's what I want to know.
Saul seems to have figured out this draft format. He is someone that I don't think anyone wants to play right now. Granted, Melissa's done very well in drafting today as well. It'll be a pretty good matchup if that happens in the top 4.
Saul will play the winner of this match between Melissa and Ian, as Melissa is again up a game here, taking a look at the sideboard. So we'll see exactly how things do go. See if DeTora can bring it home here for TCG player. Frank Lepore, the boyfriend, unfortunately knocked out. The dream is dead. As tough as it is to say, though, to be fair, they did get to draw in the final round of the tournament, a moment you will never forget as a couple. So, again, congratulations to them for that. Again, Frank with a fantastic run. Number 8 overall seed did make the top 8. So it's been a great weekend for these two. But Melissa, I know she wants that title. That much to be sure. She's going to take a moment here, which means I believe we're going to head back to the booth here very quickly. So Cedric Phillips here, Matthias Hunt, former Rookie of the Year, Grand Prix Orlando brought to you, bringing you Star City Games. Excuse me, Grand Prix Orlando brought to you by Star City Games. I've been talking a lot this week, and if you didn't notice, but it's been fun to watch so far. Again, we're in elimination rounds. This is actually round number 16 that we've covered. 9 yesterday, 6 so far to start the day. This is round number 7, and I don't know about you, but I'm excited to play this format after this tournament's over.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, watching a full day of Sealed and a full day of drafting with Khans of Tarkir makes me want to go home and just start playing the set as much, like almost immediately.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way, and I just like the fact that it's just really open and all the different things you can do, how you can draft it, how you can build your sealed decks, 4 colors, 5 colors, 2 colors, 3 colors. I think the only thing you can't do is 1 color.
That'd be pretty hard. I mean,
That'd be tough.
Malka's trying, to be fair.
That is definitely true. I think that might be literally the only thing you can't do in this format. It looks like a lot of fun to play, a lot of decisions to be made. Drafting seems really hard with the decisions.
We've seen some really conservative draft styles. We've seen some aggressive 5-color draft styles. And we've seen some aggressive 1-color drafting styles. And all of them with some amounts of success over the course of day 2.
Yeah, I do like Melissa's deck quite a bit, this Teamer deck. Just the power level of it seems very high as long as she can cast her spells. And while I'm not a big fan of the banners, as I imagine most people aren't, hey, whatever it takes to cast those spells, right?
Yeah, I actually have no problem with banners. I like the idea of playing 3 colors and playing really powerful cards. I've always been someone I like picking rares. And if banners get me there, I'm okay with that opportunity cost.
Okay.
Melissa did find time that game to crack both the banners, and if you crack them, you can't. If you have time to crack them, you can't say they were that bad.
We'll ask after the next game. It's too late now. You sure we can do it? Just making sure. Okay. So let's see game number 2 here. Ian's gonna finish shuffling up. Not sure if he's taking a mulligan or not right now. I think he might just be shuffling quite a bit. We'll find out, of course, from our table spotter if he's mulliganing or just shuffling a bunch. But I imagine Ian's going to be going first to this game.
Yeah, he's in a tight spot. He's the defensive deck early. He's like a control deck that doesn't have a good enough finisher right now. So he's gonna have to find some way to really keep Melissa's threat count down, and it's gonna be sneaky for him to get damage through, even at any point in the game, early or late.
7 cards for both players. Again, Ian with his Jeskai deck. Looks like he gets the opportunity to play first here.
Actually, I think the best way Ian could win is 2 copies of Alabaster Kieran that he has in his deck.
To the skies.
Yeah, I think the one weakness that Melissa has is that she doesn't have too many defenses. Not many cards with reach, not many cards with flying. What Ian needs to do is make a bunch of walls and maybe just peck to death 2 at a time with the Kierans.
That is one thing I've noticed while watching this tournament is just in the air is a great place to be. You can certainly overpower people on the ground, especially when you're a teamer deck, because it seems like those are the biggest creatures. Maybe you run into an Outlast deck where that's not the case. But from what I've noticed, a lot of players have been winning in the air, even with some rather mediocre beats.
Right, you look at cards, Sage Eye Harrier seeing a ton of play. I mean, Scaldkin is becoming a pretty high pick, and this is after a set where we had cards like Crackling Triton that read almost the same, and that guy was really not too good.
Yeah.
But Scaldkin is actually getting picked fairly highly.
Yeah. Flying, so important.
Yeah. 1 fewer point of toughness, 1 more in the mana cost, but flying makes it all.
Yeah. Melissa gonna draw 6 cards here. Shrug the shoulders, gonna give it a keep. We're underway here in game number 2. Farnung's gonna play an island before passing the turn back to DeTora with a forest. Let's make our way through the opening turns of this game. Farnung with the plains as his second land. DeTora will draw, deploy an island here. It looks like she does have all 3 colors of mana. You can see the mountain in her hand. See if Farnung has a mountain of his own since he has a Jeskai deck after all. The answer is no. There is a second island, however. Is it time for a morph? Looks like it is.
Yeah, and as we said earlier, a lot of Ian's morphs are not very aggressive. He has 2 Ifrit Weapon Masters, and those guys are good at attacking. But outside of that, it's a bunch of 1/5s, 0/6s, 3/6s, 0/5s, a lot of defense.
Here's an attack with the morph. 2 damage is going to come across to DeTora. You saw just play a 3rd land and pass the turn back. That means that Teamer Charm, can be live to counter spells, but looks like it's just a shrug, and yes, that does resolve.
And an opportunity here for Melissa. She looks like she's land flooding and on 4 lands, but there's some opportunity. Ian on his morph there didn't have a 4th land, and if Melissa can get to her haymakers before Ian gets to his walls, maybe she can overpower this morph army.
An attack here for 4. DeTora is going to go down to 14. You saw Farnung peel and play him out, and now there's Alabaster Kieran. This is the card that you did talk about. But there's a disdainful stroke, which, hey, it's not the sexiest way to get that thing off the table, but it will do just fine.
There goes the win con, right? We'll see if he can find another way to push damage through. Right now he's doing it with morphs, but Melissa's going to take care of the ground right now.
That's right on time. Bear's Companion is going to come on in here. A 4/4 Bear token is going to come along with it, and that can help stabilize things. Melissa's at a healthy enough life total at 14.
Yep. The danger card for her is if Ian has a 5th land, and if one of these morphs is a Freet Weapon Master. That guy would really complicate the combat here.
So Farnung's going to survey the board here. Don't know if he has a 5th land at this point. Not too sure what those morphs are. Just like Melissa. It's anybody's best guess. We'll see what he wants to do on this turn. I mean, it's a tough spot here. You know, the bear token comes down. It really does just block the road. Doesn't look like he has a 5th land at this point. He's got some real planning to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on what these morphs are. They're probably defensively oriented, so he can just start to transition toward the defense, or he can continue to push offense. And looks like he'll do the second one here.
Forceway is going to bounce a token. Morph will get blocked. So Sage Eye here is going to trade there with the Bear's Companion. 2 damage is going to come across. Tor is going to go down to 12. So it felt like Farnung didn't want to use his bounce spell in that fashion, but getting that 4/4 off the table feels pretty powerful to me. Hopefully it works out for him. But wow, here is Tusked Colostodon.
This card gave Ian fits game 1, and I don't see it being any different game 2. Ian was in a tough spot, so he had to try to become an aggro deck there with that force away play, because you saw he doesn't have much of an aggro game plan. He pushed 2 with the morph, and it was really unlikely that Melissa wouldn't have something that could stop the 2/2 from hitting more.
Dazzling Rapids are the draw, and that will come into play. You saw Ian put his 5th land into play there.
Yeah, Melissa could probably free run a attack here. If Ian blocks, he risks Teamer Charm just winning the game against him.
There's a morph. Don't know if you caught a good look at it. It looked like an Ice Feather Aven to me.
Believe it is Ice Feather Aven.
I think she has some interest in maybe doing this right away. 6 mana is a lot to bounce a creature, but it gets the job done. Get the ramparts out of the way.
That'll do it right now. And it might be Melissa. So she could have made a bluff there with Tusked Colostodon swinging in, but it might be that she wants to get damage in fast enough that she doesn't want to risk Ian calling the bluff. It would be a pretty tough call for Ian to make, but if he did, he would get to stay at 20.
Yeah.
He could spend his whole turn recasting that Dazzling Wall.
Here's an attack for 2. That's a pretty easy start. I think it's not really going to do a nice job of blocking. Now there is Dazzling Ramparts again. That thing's got a big old butt, but Tusked Colostodon does not care one bit.
Yeah, he's almost big enough. Melissa does have an incremental growth in her hand. Now that card, it's not optional to target 3 things. If she casts it, that's the real awkward spot where you put some counters on your opponent's creature and kind of shrug about it. I might think she might do it anyway. Returning the Aven into a 5/5 and the Colostodon into an 8/7 seems good enough that even if you have to give your opponent a little 1/1 counter, that's fine.
Or would you put the 1/1 counter on the Ramparts, which would make it an 0/8? You know, Colostodon can still beat it in battle, or do you put it on the Morph?
Interesting question. I guess I put it on the Ramparts.
Yeah, that's what she's going to do.
You know, a 1/8's not scary. It doesn't kill anything in my deck. The cards that can get through it can still get through it. The cards that can't still can't. I don't think 1 counter on it really changes things. It probably doesn't change anything on the Morph, but you don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty with Morphs. This play is very safe and very strong.
As you mentioned, you do have to target 3 things there. So Melissa does have to target one of Ian's creatures, does go with the Ramparts to make it into a 1/8. Tusked Colostodon is an 8/7, and the Aven is a 5/5 flyer. So Melissa giving the beat downs.
Yeah, and this is really hard. This is 13 damage. Ian's at 14. He either has to go to 1, or he has to get rid of his Dazzling Ramparts. Those are both terrible options for him.
I wouldn't like either one of those options.
No, he's going to choose the go to 1 option, which, all right. That's...
Well, first things first, I guess a flyer isn't 100% necessary because Ramparts can tap down the Ice Feather Aven, and then the Morph can block the Colostodon. But
yeah, but even then, so then he's chumping, so he'll have to pay mana to recast more chump blockers, pay 2 mana to the Dazzling Ramparts, and while he can stay alive a while doing that, it seems really hard that he would actually make progress on the board with all his mana basically tied up and keeping himself stabilized.
yeah, it feels like a temporary reprieve. That's about it. You can tell Farnung knows he's in some serious trouble here, facing down these big beats from this teamer deck. Melissa's deck does look mighty fine.
Yeah, I mean, when Melissa's deck turns aggressive, it hits real hard. We saw her down to 12. The first attack put Ian to 14. The second one put him to 1.
Yeah. It feels like, there's some buildup to get the ball rolling with the deck, but once it gets rolling, you're able to turn the corner. Man, is it tough to stop.
Yeah, these creatures are huge.
There's another morph there for Farnung, using a red mana. So that won't be available on the next turn. DeTora is going to untap her lands and her 2 large creatures. 5/5 flyer and 8/7 on the ground.
The teamer deck is just too ferocious here. You see, Ian's game plan was to make 0/6s and 7 toughness creatures on the ground and to make 0/5 flyers or 1/5 flyers and have that be enough. But when Melissa has 5 power flyers and 8 power ground pounders, the plan falls apart.
Treasure Cruise will draw DeTora 3 cards here. That card is nasty too. Boy.
It's questionable whether or not Melissa needs any more cards to win the game, but when she gets 3 more of them, it's almost certain that she'll be able to deal the final point.
Looks like we're going to go to the attack step. Ava's going to get tapped down. Colossadon certainly coming into the red zone. That's just where that thing belongs. Tapped and attacking.
Yeah. I mean, he's huge. He's got his name. He's a Colossadon. He's colossal.
Morph. It is the Dragon Eye. Going to show a cancel because Farnung would like to get a look at the grip here.
Just to find out which spell he wants to counter and won't be able to next turn.
Mm-hmm. See what this is going to show. Scaldkin. Ugh. Jeez.
All right, well, I think he's going to have to cancel that one.
Well, I don't think he's going to get the chance because I don't believe Melissa has played a land yet. So Melissa has the ability to just play a land, play Scaldkin, pass the turn, and hope it doesn't die.
Oh. Well, there's that.
Yeah, that's available. There's actually, there are a couple things that are available. Melissa's hands 2 lands, the Scaldkin, and then there's Savage Punch. She could Savage Punch the Rampart
punch
this
the
turn.
wall, too.
Yeah.
Just punch out the wall. Yeah, okay, here's Scaldkin. Ian probably needs a kill spell. He's at 1. Really can't let her untap.
Got to put him to the test right now.
And I don't know if he has one. Blood Fire Mentor was the draw. 0/5, good card, not good enough here.
It looks like maybe there's an Arc Lightning. Maybe.
Blinding Spray. I do think we have an Arc Lightning. It might have been safer on Melissa's side to just Savage Punch the wall out of the way.
Maybe.
It's really hard. So Arc Lightning takes care of Scaldkin, puts Melissa down to 9. Ian has cancel up, but he can't leave it up because the Ramparts have to tap the Aven.
Yeah, he's in the rock and the hard place right now, right? Where he doesn't have enough mana to do all the things that he wants to do. I think that's the biggest issue. The Savage Punch seems like it's the lock on the game. We'll see how Melissa wants to use it, but I imagine she's going to use it on this particular turn. She knows about the cancel, too.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows what happens if the Savage Punch is cast and a cancel takes care of that.
Well, then she wins in the air.
Mm-hmm. She wins in the air, and then if the Savage Punch resolves and the cancel doesn't take care of that, I think she still wins anyway, because then there's one less creature in the way.
Well, he can tap. He's going to tap a creature in response to the Savage Punch.
Okay.
So he'll survive for a turn.
So here's Savage Punch, Colossadon.
Oh, there's actually no. She did this perfectly. There's no way for me to do it. If the Ground Pounder punches the Morph,
Yep.
yeah, he can't do it.
He can't do it.
If he taps in response,
Yep.
that doesn't work. So Melissa 2-0 takes down Ian and moves on to the semifinals.